Sedatives had dulled the pain, but not the wound buried deep in its spirit. They were taking no chances now. A remote wildlife sanctuary high in the hills had agreed to receive the bear, far from human settlements and prying eyes. No one was certain if he would survive the night. Back in the quiet countryside, the house once filled with the soft sounds of toddler play had gone still. Noah sat by the back window, his chubby hand pressed to the glass, pointing, every day, every night, toward the fence, toward the empty space where his friend had been. He no longer babbled. He didn't crawl after his toy truck. He simply sat, waiting, watching. His parents tried to distract him. Bubbles, snacks, cartoons. But it was like his world had gone dim. He wasn't waiting for a toy. He was waiting for something his tiny heart couldn't explain. No more bear stories, Aaron. Noah's father was firm, jaw tight with worry. Noah's father was firm, jaw tight with worry. He stood in the living room, arms crossed, watching his wife clean up yet another of Noah's drawings. The boy had begun sketching again, every piece a mess of shaky lines and brown circles. At first, it seemed random, but then Aaron noticed the details. The eyes, the scar on the leg, the tiny truck by its paw, the same image over and over again. "He's processing," she whispered. "This is his way." "No, it's dangerous," the father snapped. "That was a wild animal. We were lucky. I don't want him obsessed with this. He's too young to understand." "But he does understand," Aaron said, holding up one of the drawings. "Look at this. Look at the eyes. He knows that bear. He felt something. And now it's gone." Her husband turned away. That night, when the house went quiet, Aaron crept into Noah's room. He was awake, eyes glossy, the blankets kicked off. A fresh page from his coloring pad lay beside him, another drawing of the bear. She sat on the edge of the bed and brushed his hair back gently. Then, with a glance toward the hallway, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded paper. It was her drawing, this time, a simple sketch of the same bear, but whole, healthy, smiling even. She tucked it under his pillow. Noah didn't speak, but for the first time in days, he reached up and touched her cheek. At the sanctuary, the bear, now designated Case 76B, refused to eat. They tried raw salmon, honey, berries, even protein paste. Nothing worked. He lay in the corner of his enclosure, his body healing, but his will clearly not. He wouldn't engage with enrichment items, wouldn't react to noises or other animals, wouldn't lift his head when keepers entered. He wouldn't engage with enrichment items, wouldn't react to noises or other animals, wouldn't lift his head when keepers entered. Except for one thing, the broken toy truck. The broken toy truck. The vets had cleaned it and placed it beside him when they admitted him. Since then, it had become his only constant companion. He dragged it from one side of the enclosure to the other, always keeping it close. One afternoon, a young staffer named Lila watched him from the viewing room. "He hasn't eaten," she murmured to her supervisor. "But he moves that thing like it matters more than food." The supervisor shrugged. "Probably trauma-bonded. He associates it with the moment he was freed." But Lila shook her head. "No, he remembers something." They watched as the bear slowly pushed the truck forward with his nose, then looked toward the glass, waiting for something that wasn't there. Back home, Noah grew pale, listless. His skin lost its glow, and his cheeks thinned. The pediatrician first diagnosed it as a viral infection, but blood work came back clean. Then came the fever. It climbed past 101, then 103. Then came the fever. It climbed past 101, then 103. He stopped speaking entirely, refused food, refused to leave his room. Even the drawings stopped. The doctor sat down with Aaron and her husband. "We believe this may be a form of psychological withdrawal," he said gently. "Sometimes, in very young children, extreme emotional disruption, like the loss of a pet or traumatic event, can manifest physically. Their bodies react to grief the only way they know how. shutting down. "Trauma?" the father asked. "He's just a baby. He's exactly the age where trauma can imprint deeply," the doctor replied. "The bond your son formed, whatever it was, he's grieving it, hard." At the sanctuary, the bear began pacing. For the first time in weeks, he moved more than just to sleep or nudge the toy. He circled the edge of the enclosure, growling low, not in pain, but in frustration. The head vet noted the change. "He's agitated," she muttered. "His vitals are stable, but his brain, it's locked in something. He's waiting." Lila stood nearby, holding the latest behavioral report. Her eyes flicked to the window. "You know what I think?" she said. "He knows." The vet raised an eyebrow. "Knows what?" "He's agitated," she muttered. "His vitals are stable, but his brain, it's locked in something. He's waiting." Lila stood nearby, holding the latest behavioral report. Her eyes flicked to the window. "You know what I think?" she said. "He knows." The vet raised an eyebrow. "Knows what?" "That the boy's not okay." The vet scoffed. "That's a stretch." The vet scoffed. "That's a stretch." "Maybe," Lila said, "but we've ruled out everything else, and this isn't typical behavior. Not for a wild bear, not even for a cub." She took a breath. "Let me try something." She took a breath. "Let me try something." That night, under dim light and camera surveillance, Lila entered the bear's enclosure for the first time without sedatives. She wore a scent cloth taken from the child's discarded clothes, approved only after much debate. She wore a scent cloth taken from the child's discarded clothes, approved only after much debate. The moment she stepped inside, the bear stopped pacing. His massive head turned slowly. His nose twitched once, twice. Then he growled, but not in warning. It sounded more like recognition. Lila set the toy truck on the floor and carefully unrolled a laminated printout of one of Noah's drawings. She placed it near the toy. The bear froze. Then, softly, deliberately, he stepped forward. One paw, then another. He sniffed the drawing, stared at it, nudged mistakably familiar. The room seemed to hold its breath. The bear stared at him, those deep brown eyes locking onto Noah's. It didn't growl. It didn't move. And then, slowly, it dropped something onto the bed. The toy truck. The same one it had carried for weeks. The same one it had carried for weeks. With a low, gentle rumble, it nudged the truck toward Noah, almost reverently, like returning something sacred. Noah blinked. His mouth parted slightly. And then, with unsteady effort, he raised his little arm and reached out. Fingers trembling, he touched the bear's face. A nurse screamed outside the door, but neither the bear nor the child flinched. The hospital's hidden surveillance camera, mounted high in the corner of the room, captured the moment in total silence. A boy, too young to speak in full sentences. A bear, too wounded to trust anything. And between them, a touch that echoed louder than words ever could. Within hours, the footage spread like wildfire. It wasn't meant to be released, but someone on the inside leaked the clip online. By the end of the day, Bear and Baby was trending worldwide. Celebrities shared it. News anchors choked up describing it. Scientists debated it. Poets tried to capture it. But none of them could explain it. Because what happened next defied logic. Noah's vitals, which had hovered on the edge for days, suddenly stabilized. His fever broke. He sat up fully, the color rushing back into his cheeks like sunlight pouring through storm clouds. Doctors called it a trauma reversal response. But no one could explain the timing. No one could explain why it happened the very moment the bear appeared. As for the bear, after weeks of refusing food and ignoring caretakers, he returned to his enclosure and immediately devoured his meal. Berries, salmon, even the protein paste. Lila stood outside the glass, speechless. "He's healed," she whispered. "No," said the head vet beside her. "He was just waiting." Noah and the bear were placed in separate wings of the facility. One for humans, one for wildlife. But they were never truly apart. Every day when Noah ate, the bear did too. When Noah rested, the bear lay down. When Noah stirred, the bear rose and faced the window that looked toward the hospital wing, even if he couldn't see through the wall. Staff documented the phenomenon. Experts arrived in droves: child psychologists, zoologists, behavioral scientists. The empathy link, they called it. Not magic, not myth, just something science had no words for. Back in the village, things were changing too. People who once feared the bear now gathered at the church square to hear updates. The elderly woman who had once muttered about legends now stood proudly in front of the bakery, clutching a printed photo of Noah touching the bear. "I told you," she said. "Only the pure-hearted could awaken the bond." Her words were printed the next morning in the national newspaper. By the end of the week, a full documentary crew was stationed outside the sanctuary, and the world kept watching. But fame wasn't what Noah needed. Not cameras, not crowds. He just wanted his friend. One afternoon, Erin sat beside him in his hospital room, brushing crumbs from his shirt. "You want to see the bear again?" she asked gently. Noah didn't speak. He simply reached for the toy truck and held it close. The sanctuary's board was divided. "This isn't a petting zoo," one member argued. "It's a wildlife recovery center." "But the bear is recovering because of the boy," Lila countered. "They need each other." "The media attention is out of control," another added. "We need to control the narrative before it controls us." The debate raged for hours, until a simple letter arrived. It was handwritten, by Noah's father. 3 sentences. "I was wrong. My son is alive because of that bear. Let them see each other, please." It was enough. A new plan was set in motion. Weeks later, after both had fully stabilized, the sanctuary made an announcement. They had acquired a protected plot of land just beyond the village, large, fenced, and entirely secure. It would be the bear's permanent home. Not a cage, not captivity, but not far. Close enough for visits, close enough for friendship. The villagers signed off on the decision unanimously. And just like that, the bear, who had once been stuck behind a fence, was coming home to live just beyond it. Noah's first visit was quiet. No crowds, no cameras, just him, his parents, and the old toy truck. The gate opened slowly, and the bear stepped forward, lumbering with a calm grace. The gate opened slowly, and the bear stepped forward, lumbering with a calm grace. Noah didn't run. He simply stood, arms at his sides. The bear stopped a few feet away. They stared at each other for a long, still moment. Then Noah walked forward and placed the toy at the bear's feet once again. This time, the bear didn't take it. He nudged it gently back toward Noah, like saying, "You keep it, I'll remember." That visit became a tradition. Every week, Noah returned. Sometimes he brought food, sometimes a new drawing, but always the toy truck. He never gave it away again, but he always held it up, like a secret handshake only the two of them understood. And the bear, now fully grown, healthy, peaceful, would always come. Every time, without fail. Scientists still study their case. Psychologists write about infant-animal trauma bonds. Biologists propose theories on mirror neurons and emotional mirroring across species. But none of them can quite explain it, because it wasn't just science. It wasn't just chance. It was something deeper. A bond unshaped by language or logic. A moment that proved healing doesn't always need a cure. Sometimes it just needs a friend. Years later, long after the world moved on, a new family visited the sanctuary. Their young daughter tugged her father's sleeve and pointed. "Look," she whispered, "that bear's carrying a toy." And sure enough, across the field, the old bear ambled peacefully with a now weathered toy truck balanced gently in its mouth.